Welcome, everyone. My name is Daphne Lei, Director of Illuminations, Chancellor's Arts and Culture Initiative of University of California, Irvine. I want to welcome everyone to today's Global Conversation series. Global Conversation is a series I started during the COVID pandemic. The idea is to connect the world, arts and culture, without worrying about crossing national borders or the oceans or applying for visas or getting multiple vaccines. I mentioned visa application and vaccines because this is exactly I did last year when I went to Ghana, where I met today's guest at the theater rehearsal. So there is 8,000 miles between California and Ghana and 8 hours of time difference. So I am very, very grateful that Fiifi Coleman, today's guest, accepted my invitation today. So you don't need to travel today to experience this. So before I start, I just want to say a little bit about the format today. So I will start with the conversation with Fiifi Coleman about his artistic experience and the state of theater in Ghana. And afterwards, I will invite Dr. Ketu Katrak to a special segment about the dilemma of a ghost, which is the play Fiifi directed. And then the famous Ghanaian playwright, Ama Ata Aidoo. And after the conversation, we'll open up, we'll invite the audience to chat with us, and you can use the Q&A function to do that. So here I'm going to give a very, very brief introduction of our today's distinguished guest. So Fiifi Coleman is an award-winning theater director, actor, and educator based in Accra, Ghana, and also Washington, D.C. He has about over 20 years of experience in cross-media, in theater, film, television, radio, and dance. He's currently the vice president of Ghana's chapter of the International Theater Institute, and also the chairman and CEO of Fiifi Coleman Productions. Fiifi, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Daphne. Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So let's just start. I want to do this thing kind of like reverse chronologically. So I want to start it now. So I know you are in a production, you are in a rehearsal, kind of the final rehearsal of a new production, The Slaves, which will open on March 2nd, right? With only 3 performances. Can you tell us a little bit about that production?
So many a time when I talk about it, I say we have our own Harriet Tubman story in Ghana. We have our own underground railroad that would have succeeded. So this play is about slaves from all over Africa that were captured, and so they are now in the dungeon. And then it hit them one day that they should be able to fight for themselves, even though they are captives in where they are. So they plan an escape. They plan an escape, and then in the midst of it, they swear that no one would ever mention this thing to anyone, even the other slaves, so that when they are able to get out, then they can go and bring other warriors to come back and come and fight and get them all out of the space. But in the midst of all of that, there's a betrayal where somehow the chief guard, gets to know about what they are planning, and so he also starts getting ready to fall the attempt to escape. So basically, it's just the attempt of the slaves to get out, and how their slave masters are also trying to make sure that would never happen. Yeah.
Okay. You took the actors to the Cape Coast Castle. Can you tell us a little bit about the castle? I'm not sure my students know about this. And also the actors' reaction when they actually rehearse in that space.
Well, so the castle, as we all know, held, the slaves that were waiting to be transported, to the Americans, the Caribbeans, Brazils, and all of those things. So that was like the last point after being captured. There's this story where wherever you are caught, let's say you're caught in Mali, which is about thousands of miles away from Ghana, Benin, wherever it is, they walk you all the way down back to the castle, Cape Coast. There were two of them, Cape Coast and Elmina, to keep you in these castles till your ship gets there. They from there it's just when you start living the space. Built by I think initially by the Danes, and then eventually came to be owned by the British. So that structure that you see there is actually British owned or British created. The monstrosity, as I call it, sometimes that's that. The reason for having to take the cast there stemmed from, I kept telling them during rehearsals that in an attempt to tell the story of someone who actually did go through that, put yourself a little bit in their shoes. Maybe you might stay authentic a little to the characters that you are telling their stories. So identify yourself and find yourself in the spaces in which these people were. And once you are there, trust me, it would affect how your understanding of what you're doing is. And it's interesting. Before we even went there, they felt it was going to be a tour. One of those things. We're just going somewhere to go see the castle and everything. But then I had already pre-arranged with the castle that we wanted to be an isolated tour. There's no one around, just them, just the cast. So it was a quiet space for them. They were not hearing other people walking around or anything. It was just them in a space. Initially, it felt like, oh, we're going. And once we went down the mill dungeon, that was it. It was just like the very first space that they entered, everyone became quiet. And as they were listening to the stories of the stories of what had happened in those spaces, I saw the switch that started coming into their faces and their moods, even the way they would walk and even the way they would talk. At the end of it all, we had a bit of a talk back, and then to understand why they say the things they say and why the characters behave the way they are behaving in the play. And you could tell that some understanding has come to them. And for me as a director, it's a very good thing for me because I wanted them to realize that for themselves. And it's been a good thing since then. There's every now and then we'll break in rehearsal where they will remember something and it's, oh, that is why she would say this, like, because she was being taken here, and all of that. And it's interesting to watch your actors actually, get deeper into the characters and analysis and interpretation. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if it could be a site-specific performance you're actually doing in the castle, that would be astounding. Right? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And then, but another thing that caught my attention, so after the tour, they allowed tourists to now come in to the castle. But when the tourists were coming in, we had now gotten into costumes and rehearsing on the grounds. And they wouldn't move. They just caught up. They just stared at us in our costumes and in chains as we were trying to, like live a little bit like them and to go through that. And I was like, maybe we should actually have a live theater thing going on here when people are coming through, so they get an experience more of just like walking around and just touring the spaces. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's watch a little video of this. Of this production. Yeah.
We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know we will get there.
It's a very powerful images. Yeah. All right. So, okay, let's go back to the beginning. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into theater or performance? When did you start? And what was your own training and all that? Yeah.
Um, um, Theater was an original plan. The original plan
No
was
one's original plan was
yeah,
theater.
yeah. It wasn't original. The original plan, according to my parents, because I didn't have it wasn't even mine idea of it, was that as the only child at the time, an only child and about to become the man of the house, theater wasn't the way to go. Like there was nothing in it. What are you going to bring back to the house, and all of that. So the idea was to become an engineer, and that didn't go so well for them. But studies had started. I actually did go to the teachers training college to train as a teacher. And just before graduation, a friend of mine who I had actually, done a couple of theater things within high school, here we call it secondary school, in high school had advised that he thinks that with what I've been able to do untrained, if I would just put a little bit of energy and money into getting trained in theater, I would do some great work. I did introduce the idea to my parents. It didn't go down very well, but I had to listen, just give me the chance, let me give it a trial. And here we are. So originally, so I would say been doing this professionally for over 20 years now. It started with just things that I would do in high school, and then in teachers training college, I had to be the president of a drama company, the school's drama company on train, and just look for stories to come up and just make up how to, run them and all of those. And I felt the satisfaction that I got from that. So when I finally got to do train theater stuff, I was very excited about it. That this is really pleasant. I want to do this, and here we are. At this point, yeah. Yeah, that's how theater started for me. Yeah.
How do people generally train? Do you have programs in high school, college, or
Well,
professional companies?
so now there are programs, but the programs are not directly taught. They call them, I wish, what's the title of this program? Cultural studies or something of the sort. It's a bit of a program where it just teaches you about your history, and then people try to enact part of it in school. It is required and all of that. Schools have got plays that they make the students read for their literature examinations and all of that. So the schools have formed their own theater clubs in the schools, like the high schools, and then they just read them and then enact them themselves. But when I was growing up, there wasn't anything of the sort. It was just there was nothing. You don't have anything. And these people that are even learning them right now, they're not being tutored by any trained professional when it comes to theater and all of those things. There's the literature lecturer in high school decides that, okay, this is a play that you're answering questions on in literature. It's a play. Let's cast, let's, you be that, you be that, and all of that. So that's that. Things like conservatories and all of those things, we don't have them. We never had them. And even I don't know, even the conference that you attended, you might also find out that the School of Performing Arts is just the one of its kind, in the whole place that has the entire program of music, dance, and drama that that they run. Other universities currently do have theater arts programs where they teach these things, but they're not as, because they're very young. They're like baby programs that are being run in all of these schools. And that's that. Formal training areas where if you don't go to university, there's nowhere. You might join a company or self-taught company from anywhere and then just start picking up things from there. But to be formally trained in an institution as a performing artist, currently you have the School of Performing Arts, and then you might have the other universities running programs and the theater arts, and music that you can attend. That is if that is where your interest lies. But we still don't have the legacy project, as I call it, as a child, this is what you want to do, and then you start training from there, like how ballerinas will start from, from preschool and then caging and everything until they become an adult. We we really don't have that luxury like that. We actually do grow up to a certain age before we decide just what we want to do, and then we just go in there to start learning at a very old age how to do these things. Yeah.
So there's not like an established system of training, and people, either like you go to university, you learn something here and there, or you actually learn when you are actually as a professional actor, then you keep learning and all that,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can tell a little story about how I met you, because I went to Ghana for a conference, and I knew about your production, but I couldn't go see the production because I was actually leaving that day. So I called Fiifi, and I didn't know it was you. I just called the number I could find on the flyer, and then you answered the phone. And I was just asking if I could see a dress rehearsal, so at least I could see what the play is about. And then I thought it would be in National Theater. And then I'm glad you told me, no, it's actually not in National Theater for the dress rehearsal. It's in this address. So I went, and it was your office. And then by the time it was time for the rehearsal to start, I thought we were going to go down to a rehearsal room. But no, it was a parking lot.
Yeah.
And then you told me that you told the actors that the set will be in tomorrow morning. And then that's the first time the actors will see the set, right? In the space, and do a quick run through of tech dress rehearsal together, and then for the afternoon performance. I was just so surprised. That's how it's done. And then your actors are so good, right? They could just take it and then do it that way. So just tell me a little bit about the current state of theater in Ghana.
It's just, if there's a state to even describe it, but definitely it's just it's been it's a I think it's because it's a nationally owned theater. It's like it's a government owned theater. Like the whole country has one national theater. So one theater of all this, the standards that you could think about. So what happens is that there's a lot of pressure on activities at the theater. So it becomes very difficult for a producer to take a work there and they say, oh, you have 1 week, you can come and do stuff and all of that. Because many a time, the day before your production, somebody has booked it for their event or something of the sort. So you don't have the luxury of going in at this time to go do that, like a week. Normally you get like a week of, going in and out of the space and then understanding where things are going to be. And we don't have that luxury. It has been like that for a very long time. So our actors and directors here, we've actually adapted it, like, okay, I'm going to give you a vision, like a visualization of how the set is going to look like. It's going to be here. It's going to be here. This is here. This is here. This is how it's going to look like. Many a time we have, production designers, Prince Kojo Hilton that I work with, who actually give you a visual. He would draw, he'll give you a mock, so there's a mock-up of how the set is going to look like. So they have, like, visually, they've seen how it's going to look like, but it's different from being in a space. And then that's it. If you do not take advantage of that and say you're going to wait to go to that space or whatever it is, you will get there and you're just lost as to what to do with these people. But it is the state of the look, if we had the community theaters, if we had those spaces, we have a lot of them in Accra where we can have the option of, if I don't like A, I can go to B, which is available for me to do, a couple of tech rehearsals before, then it will be easier for us to make those choices. But we don't. We do have that one national theater that everyone, I feel like it has become a space where every matured, quote unquote, producer or director decides that is where my work has to go. For it to like be respected, to be seen, like it's like taking a show to Broadway. It's like, listen, my show is on Broadway. You feel like it's a very great, deal to have it there. So it has become our Broadway, but our Broadway is one. It's just one theater with a lot of pressure. And we wish there were other ways, other means of, not having to go through that one day tech or not get morning of a show tech kind of thing. But unfortunately, that's what the situation is like. And we are fighting against it somehow to see, and the government has also promised building a couple of theaters. Hopefully they will spring up very soon so we can have the opportunity to actually do theater the way it's meant to be done here.
Well, the United States doesn't have a national theater, so we don't even have a national theater. I guess we have Broadway, we have the regional theaters, and we have the community theater, just different kinds of theater, but we do not have national theater. Yeah. So what about in communities? Do they have like small theater, or do people?
I think as much as I can remember, most community performances that there has been open door. It's so like in a system of how you saw us rehearse. So it will be a space like that where chairs will be brought around and people will sit maybe in the round, or maybe a makeshift proscenium of a sort that we just sit outside and enjoy these ones, which are very fun. Actually, they are fun, when you come to think about it. But when it comes to projects like if I want to take Dilemma to somewhere like a local community to go show it of that sort, as a producer, the challenges, my director, the challenges are going to be, I wouldn't find the space that I want to do. I wouldn't find a theatrical space. I might find a church. I might find a church that I could go into and play with them, because these sort of churches always sort of set up like a proscenium. So, you can actually do something at church. Some conference rooms have also got this, like a higher end of, of one side that we can also use that as well. Schools, assembly halls, and all of those things, we can adapt them to do shows. But as in built theaters for these communities, no, they do not exist as yet. We're hoping that, every community, as promised, would have their own, if not even the best. We're not even asking for the best of the best. We're asking for a space that we can actually do work at, that has got the facilities that you need as a director and actor to perform. Yeah.
Yeah. What's your audience space? What kind of people go to theater, like productions of yours, like that kind of theater?
Ooh, I think it is that is actually based on what the shows are about. Like for now, if I want to speak to the slaves right now, I do know that majority of the people who have bought tickets, who have called in and making inquiries, are diasporans, African Americans, in Ghana currently. The universities, the university campuses there, they are also very interested in theater, going out to go and do that. It's become a bit of a thing where I would say the middle class, the middle class actually are the ones that actually, it becomes part and parcel of them to want to patronize things that are happening at the National Theatre. Yeah, but it is quite a little bit on a steeper side when it comes to the cost of ticket for a lot of people as well. So it's become that selective that these people in the diplomatic corps, middle class, a little bit, the university students, diasporans. Yeah, those are the ones that normally can see our place here.
Yeah, and then also I don't know how long it takes, at least a couple of months, right, to rehearse a play, and then you only get to do like 2 or 3 performances. And so we kind of chatted about the frustration, right? So then where do you store all the costume and props, and do you just destroy them, or you think, okay, when we might do that again? And yeah, so how do you handle that?
You don't handle that. You don't even handle that. The idea is that yeah, and it's interesting because whenever we're making the comparisons, we do talk about, do you know that in other places you can run it for a month, like 2 months? So we do know that. We actually that we are aware that is how it's supposed to be done. However, it comes back to availability of spaces for that and bookings and all of that. That even within that space, because there is so much pressure on that single space that even if you have the money and willing to pay for it, it might not be available for you because other people have actually, they need it. You have to have also paid for, ahead of time, that we would like to use the space from this time to this time to do A, B, C, D. Another thing to worth mentioning is that the National Theatre does not only host theatrical activities. It's become like the bigger space where conferences are held there, and workshops are held there, and end of year AGMs, annual general meetings are held because of the space size and everything. So it's the challenge is not just even just between theater practitioners, and it's between us and a whole lot other people, banks and governmental institutions and all of that. So it is not so available to us, when we need it. Now, I was telling you, it's very capital intensive to produce theater in Ghana. So this set, we build a set, costumes and everything, and you do it for a day sometimes. I mean, the most you get is maybe 2 days or something. So, and then now you're done with the play, and then all those things are they're just there. If you're lucky, you're lucky. Your next play would require that you pull from your old costumes that would work for you, and then you can use it. You can go back in there and then use them, pick some from there. But many a time after the play, your costumes are just like sitting there. The costumier might have it, or somewhere in the office somewhere, just locked up, not knowing what to do with it again.
Mm.
Very frustrating. Very, very frustrating.
Right. And then think about, sustainability, right? Think about you produce all these things, but then you are only using it for 2 days, 3 days.
2 days, yes.
Yeah.
2 days.
Yeah.
So you really think it's not worth it, but
Mhm. Well, you also work, on TV and film. And can you talk a little bit about that? Do you prefer, which medium do you prefer? Do you prefer theater, or do you prefer, or maybe I shouldn't say prefer, like the differences?
well, I don't mind prefer, because I've been asked that question so many a time, and then I would say I would choose theater any day over the TV and film. And then my reason has always been that I have no room for errors. I cannot stop and take it again. I have that gratification that I can see I can tell, I get the feedback there and then from my audience. I see them react to what I am doing. I can relate to them directly. Whereas the other medium is like, I don't even know what you thought about my movie when you saw it in your home, and what and all of that. And then because there's always a second chance to get it right, it's like I feel like I'm lazy. I feel like this, look, I like film, but I feel like it makes me as an actor, look, I build all of these things, but they can still stop me and then say, do it again and take it again, and then all of that, so they can get the perfect take. On stage, I do not have the choice of that. So I have to be perfect and actually well prepared for what I'm going to present than I would be if it was for film and all of those things. And I can actually like that human interaction. I like the idea that I can actually look in the eye of an audience and talk to them directly, and I can belt it out to the whole auditorium, and and all of that. And it's such a I like it. That satisfaction is very good for me. So I always prefer to be on the stage, direct for the stage, than I would do for film and TV.
Mm-hmm. Right, because you can feel, when they laugh, when they respond with, right, you can hear that.
All of that.
Yeah,
All
that,
of that.
yeah.
All of that. We did Julius Caesar a while back, and I was Cassius, and a part of the production, it got to a point where the audience were so infuriated by Cassius's character, and you could tell from their faces how angry they are, and sometimes they can't even hold it in them, and they will shout back at you, and that is something that Ghanaian theater, but the audiences are very good at. They get so much into it, so much that whatever feeling that they have for the character, they can't even just sit down and enjoy it. They will yell it out at you, and they will say, "Get out of the stage! You're so mean." They will just shout it out at you in whatever language they want to do it. They will tell you, and then in the back of your mind is like, "I'm affecting you that much. I'm doing something good because I'm only just acting. I'm only just acting." And I think those things, and then watching an audience, a member cry because you're going through an emotional state, and you're able to carry them on that journey, even them coming along with you from that journey, it's beautiful for me. It's very, very beautiful for me. And then also you can have them come back to you after the production, like right there's a Q&A, or when we are meeting and greeting after production, somebody can walk up to you and tell you exactly what they felt about something and what they thought about something. It's always good for me to hear that.
Yeah. I mean, actors, we need that kind of energy. The feedback from the audience is like the energy. It's something that we are craving for,
I
right?
know.
Yeah, that's the spirit of theater. What was your, or maybe more than one, the most memorable production or something you want to tell us?
There's a lot. I think the one that I it keeps sticking out to me would be So somewhere during COVID time when we couldn't go out, there was no theater and everything of the sort. And in COVID, I produced one play, and then I was selected as a theater director from Ghana to set a piece on an actress from Romania. So she was in Bucharest and I was in Ghana, and we did, I think, the fifth story from the Cameron. It was called the Hectomeron Project. The Cameron was also like a story that were written by all these people in, I think, the 15th century during the Black Plague, the Black Death era. So they were also in like quarantine and they started writing these stories. So when we went into quarantine during COVID time, they brought it out, and then they said, selected from all over the country, all over the world, actually. There was one from Ghana, Nigeria, directors, and then they give us actors from, the other countries, and then you just set the piece on them. Yes.
So you didn't choose the actors,
No,
they choose
you
for
don't.
you.
No, you don't
Oh,
get
wow.
to.
Okay.
You don't get to choose. So the communication is like,
excellent.
well,
Yeah.
this will be the person that you'll be working with. Is that okay? Thank you very much. So you do everything with them. Everything was via Zoom, technical rehearsal, talking to the tech team, what lights you were looking for, the props you wanted them to bring on stage to help tell the story. And I think also with my knowledge with camera, it helped a little bit for me to actually direct them as to what I want you to do with this shot, so we could tell the story very well for them to understand what was going on. And for me, that was very big for me. It was very huge that we were able to do that. Because you couldn't shut us down. You couldn't shut us down. COVID or not, theater needed to thrive somehow. We needed to figure a way to get it to people who wanted to see it, and we were able to do that. And it's an exciting project for me. Won an award for it, so I was very excited about that as well.
All right, we have a little clip of that production, right?
Okay.
Let's see that.
One early morning when
Not this one.
Mommy.
Well, it's not this one. Yeah. Yeah. So you can explain what's going on to us.
Yes, this is my very beautiful actress that they gave me to work with here. I think we rehearsed. The funny part, we rehearsed at my home and her home. So we hadn't even gone to the theater when we were doing the rehearsal. She wasn't even there. She was home every time that we would rehearse this play. And I think we had a bit of a time difference as well. And we had like an hour and 30 minutes every I think 3 times in a week. 3 times in a week, we had an hour and 30 minutes to be able to do this. We rehearsed for, I think, maybe 6 weeks doing this before we're even introduced to the space for this to happen. I think it was also in Italian, and that's the thing. The language was Italian. It's Italian, and she spoke very little English. And so it was very, 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 interesting going back and forth trying to actually understand exactly the balloon there is supposed to be her object of interest. That's her boyfriend, her boyfriend in the her boyfriend. Yes, Leonetto, in that represented that, and yeah. It's just the idea of being able to create. That's what I said. I am being able to create in this in a time like COVID and actually make work like this. It's beautiful. Was very beautiful, and it's one of the best things that I think I have done so far. Hopefully, there are more bigger ones to come to grace all of this.
Yeah, I have seen some very powerful theater during COVID.
COVID time, yes.
Yeah,
I think,
and another one you talk about this play is being set in the like the black plague, right? It was during that time it went.
Was in that time, yes, the Black Death time, yeah.
Yeah. So we think about COVID and black plague, but another play that was staged during COVID time was also Waiting for Godot. the idea of
Yes.
waiting. We don't know when it will come, right? When
Yes.
the end will come, it's
Yes.
waiting. So
Yeah.
that's another thing.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Waiting for Godot is actually very wow. Interesting.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We can stop
Yeah.
now. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so maybe we should move to the next section. We'll have Professor Ketu Katrak join us. So next section, I'm going to talk about, I want to focus on your production of Dilemma of a Ghost, which was written by the most famous playwright from Ghana. I think for the world audience, and this is the person they know, Ama Ata Aidoo. And then and K2, Professor Katrak, is a specialist on women in theater and post-colonial theater and African theater. And because of her expertise, so I actually invited her to write about Aidoo in the theater histories textbook. And then Fifi also supplied a photo for us from your production as our illustration. So it was great to have this connection all together. So K2, why don't you take over? And yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Daphne, for inviting me. And thank you, Fiifi Coleman. It was really wonderful to hear you about all your experiences, even the challenges of working in theater, in other parts of the world. So thank you for being with the UCI community on Daphne's invitation and Illuminations. So the play that you directed, Dilemma of a Ghost, which is written by Ama Ata Aidoo, if I can just give a very short summary of the play so that the students who are in the audience who may not have read it. Ama Ata Aidoo wrote this play when she was really young. She was like 24 years old, almost the age of maybe even older, just around the time of our students. And at that time, too, she was a very bold playwright, right? So she brought in some really complicated issues of slavery, which, your production of slaves that we saw was such a moving kind of world that you created. And she recreates this in both of her plays, Dilemma of a Ghost and Anoa. Ama Ata Aidoo was also very much a feminist, She wrote about women and she gave women very important roles in her work. So this play is about like clash of cultures, we can call it, right? Between an African American woman and a Ghanaian man. They meet at university in the US and decide to get married, and they go back to Ghana into a village where the male character Ato is from, and that leads to all kinds of conflicts in terms of the host family, the family that the man belongs to, and the African American woman, and that's how the whole plot is developed. The title is interesting, called Dilemma of a Ghost, because Ama Ata Aidoo was very good at taking from the oral traditions, the orality of the culture. So although she wrote in English, her dialogues, the use of proverbs, and so on came from the orality of Ghanaian culture. And in the same way, the dilemma is usually in Ghanaian culture like a dilemma tale. So you have a dilemma, you have a problem, and then the entire community decides to discuss it very democratically. They come to a resolution, or the resolution is open-ended, right? So that's kind of how the play proceeds, just briefly. Ama Ata Aidoo is also very interested in female bodies and female fertility. So very often in her plays, she depicts a woman who is either unable to have a child, or in Dilemma of a Ghost, the main character practices birth control, and the village community does not know about it. So that creates a lot of conflicts. So she's a fantastic playwright. I always loved teaching her work. I retired from UCI a couple of years back, but she still remains one of my favorite playwrights. So maybe to turn to you, if You could comment maybe on if Daphne, if you want to see the clip and then, or
Yeah,
we can.
maybe we should see the clip first because you mentioned a few things, right? Like, African versus African American, and then the whole town, and then the dilemma. So maybe we'll see the clip first, so people
Sure.
get some kind of
Okay, we
visual
can see a clip
images.
of the production that Fiifi Coleman
Yes.
directed, right?
Yeah.
It's just a 3-minute clip.
Yeah.
And please keep putting your questions in the Q&A. I just wanted to remind the audience.
Yeah.
One early morning when the moon was Mommy, hey!
The day of planning is different from the day of battle. When the one scholar came, hey, I cannot tell you what happened. You shall see that anon.
I really hope it won't matter at all.
Lily, don't you believe me when I tell you it's okay? Your own sweet self should be okay enough for any guy. And how can a first-born child be difficult to please? Huh? Children, who wants them? In fact, they will make me jealous. And I couldn't bear see you love anyone better than you do me. Not yet. Not even my own children.
You're really sure?
Love, aren't you the sweetest things in Africa and America rolled together? We are going to create a paradise with or without children.
You know his son that was away beyond the seas has now come back?
Hey, that explains a new painting. When?
Just the night.
Hey, is he here?
I don't know.
I heard her younger children crying for eggs.
Oh, yes. That means those of us in the neighborhood will have our mouths watering with the aroma of her fryings and stewings.
When we were young, a woman cleared her eating place after the last morsel had hardly touched her tongue. But now, they would allow their noise-making pans to lie about for people to trip over. But it is not their fault. If they had to use earthenware pots, which broke more easily than eggs, they would have learnt their lessons long ago.
I was only telling your aunt that I have sold your sheep to pay the bride price for you when you make up your mind to marry.
Are you talking about marriage?
Oh,
But mommy, I'm married.
married? Who is your wife? Where does she come from? To my son. Who is your wife?
You Lily.
Really? Listen. Hey, Petu, Antre, what does he say? Hooray!
Let us say that some names that are coming into this world are fearful.
Ato.
Oh, you know,
Okay.
my wife comes from America.
We always fight the women's sense.
So at last, here I am in Africa. I hope I've done the right thing. Native boy,
Yep.
don't you think it's time we started a family?
One early morning when the moon was up, shining like a star, I went to Mina Junction, and then I saw a wretched ghost going up and down and singing to himself. Shall I go to Cape Coast or to Elmina? I don't know, I can't tell.
Okay, thank you for that clip. It looks like a wonderful production. I wish I had seen it. And maybe we could start with the song where the clip ended. Shall I go to Elmina or Cape Coast? And you can tell us a little bit about, you already mentioned you took your actors to the Cape Coast Castle. I always think castle is the wrong word. It should be called dungeons, you know. They were, but the Europeans call them castles. And you know how Ama Ata Aidoo, even at that young age, brings in this history into Dilemma of a Ghost.
It's interesting because she does mention the two dungeons, because I agree with you. She does mention the dungeons, the two dungeons that were known for all these atrocities that were done by ourselves too, by So the ghost at this point is, and I keep on asking, is there a better one? Is Kipo's castle a better slave dungeon than Elmina? Is Elmina a better, because we had castles in both places. What was the last places where the slaves were before they were transported to go wherever it is that they were going? So shall I go to either of them? Either of them, what do you get from either? Either of them, what is the end of it? Is there going to be any better experience at one than it's going to be at the other? So that dilemma which it is ghost, the ghost is still Atos, a younger Ato and an older Ato, and I play, I play within talking about Ato as in him being the younger version of himself and an older version of himself, and puts them in the situation or locations. The younger version of himself that lived in Ghana, grew up in that society, understood the culture of these people, accepted it for as long as he could. To the older version of himself that went to America, now to go learn and understand different cultures altogether. Now in America, that culture was okay for him. It was okay for him to say, it is fine. I don't care. They can do whatever they want to do. And now you carry him out from America and bring him back into Ghana, the space of the land of birth. Now he's beginning to see how his new ideologies are going to affect how he's seen by his own people. So that ghost there being Ato's younger self and his older self, that dungeons, talking about slavery even at the time, and Ama is very clever with these things. And he to understand that which one of them, shall I go to Cape Coast or to Elmina? Where is it coming from? What is the end? What am I getting? The dilemma is there. Neither is going to give me the comfort that I seek at this point. Because if I go the way of Eulalie, my wife, and agree with whatever she, being a very strong female personality in this play, requires of me, I am going against my family and the traditions of this. And if I go there, my wife is on the other side and go like, oh, you, the man, is that how weak a man you are, that after saying all of these things, you are not even brave enough to tell your own parents that you said we would have children when we wanted to, and it's not me. So yeah.
Right. Yeah, thank you for that explanation. That's really useful because there really is not much to choose. Both of them are slave dungeons, and once you go there, you're going to be taken away. But in the play itself, Eulalie, is she the ghost, the dilemma of the ghost, like where she belongs? Or is it the male character, Ato, whom interestingly, Aidoo presents him as a rather weak character, somebody who's not very decisive, right?
Yes.
And cannot really stand up for his ideas or even protect his wife by talking. There's always a language barrier. I think that's what becomes clear in the play also, because the local people are not going to speak English. Ato is the translator between his family and his wife, and he's not a very good translator or negotiator. So who is the ghost in the play, according to your reading and your production?
I think Ato is the ghost. I've always felt Ato is the ghost that we are talking about. The one at the crossroads, the one that is beginning to Ato is the ghost at the crossroads. He is the one that is I think the symbol of the confusion. He's the object of everybody's like what his mind, what is going on here. He's lost. He's a ghost that hasn't found a place yet to belong, according to the player. Where do you belong in this way? So he's like the one wandering. So the wandering person in this play as to where do I go? Where do I go left? Do I go right? Becomes the ghost for me. So I think Ato is the ghost that we are talking about here. Himself is his decision to choose whether to be here, indecisive, whether to play here, makes him the ghost for me when it becomes a dilemma of a ghost. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And I also agree with you that he's the indecisive one. At the end of the play, Ama Ata Aidoo leaves him at the crossroads, We don't know which way he will go. So that's kind of the dilemma. And the fact that she brings in this whole history of slavery, right? And in her next play, in Anoa, which was published in 1970, a few years after Dilemma of a Ghost, she actually shows a Ghanaian man dealing in slave trade, which is so controversial, within Ghana, within all of Africa, because usually you want to point the finger outside. And it's true that the majority of the slaves were taken by the Europeans, but there was some participation from Africans, from Ghanaians like Kofi Ako, right? So
Yes.
how is that kind of history, and for that matter, how are Ama Ata Aidoo's plays received, like in Ghana? How does the audience respond to this? If you could comment on that from your perspective.
So it's so Keju, there's a part of this that I just go let's go a little bit back. There has always been slavery before the colonial slavery that we talk about all the time. Africans enslaved other Africans way before they were actually now being shipped outside. But that slavery gave the Africans, almost equal rights as their masters. So there was not a slavery where okay, I am yes. So that part was okay. It's funny, that part was okay for us. And we never talk about that part. We never discuss that part where we enslaved ourselves for ourselves. Yeah. Now, Ama comes in and says that, listen, I want to take us back a little bit. Let's look at this picture very well. There was no way slavery could have persisted for as long as it did here if we were not players in this particular thing. And then she talks about it and then talks about just how much people did not like the idea of it. Like, how dare you say that we captured our own brothers and gave, and took them away to do all of that. But then it is the fact we needed the guns, we needed the processed food, and all of those little things. And in order to do that, we traded that. Also, there were some African kings and leaders who built empires out of this. And in order to build these estates for themselves, they built it on African skeletons, people, your own people that had to go. So just a few greedy people could survive. That only existed because we allowed that. We did it to ourselves. And so there is a point where in order to move forward, you need to understand that what was your participation in it? There's a very proverbial thing where we say, if you point a finger at somebody, there's 3 of them pointing at you. Mm-hmm. We say that here, like there's 1 pointing at that person, about 3 pointing at you. What was your role in what it is that you're accusing somebody of doing? And it's been a subject. Slowly, there's also the question of why do you want to talk about slavery right now? It is gone and it is past, and then it shouldn't be even a subject. So whenever you go to Anoa, you pick it to read, it's like, oh, it's not, they're talking about slavery that, happened and why we are free now and all of those things. But we cannot just throw that history away. We cannot just say it didn't happen. And the more we understand that, we understand where we are, our predicaments, and how not to get into a state like that again.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. So when you were selecting a play to produce, did you prefer to do Dilemma over Anoa, or was that something that came to you?
So, well, the truth is that I have a thing with Dilemma. I have a thing with Dilemma. As a very young boy, I played Atum in Dilemma in high school. Okay. Yes, in high school. And then in teachers training college, I got to play Atum again in teachers training college. And then there was a period where I think Ghana had 1050, and there was a season of plays, like an all-year-long plays, and that was one of the plays that they chose. And I was then at the university as a student, and I played Atum in that. So Ama and I in that story had this relationship for a very long time. So when she passed and I went to see the family, which I was like, there is nothing I would like to do in her honor than something that she's created for me, that I've lived in that world for so long. So I want to do Dilemma with a Ghost. And yeah, I think that's one of the chiefest thing that influenced that. And also I have always said it is the message and the themes of Dilemma is it goes across borders everywhere. It ever lives on. It would never change. It would be relevant, like timeless. Mm-hmm. I can always tell this story in whatever year that I'm telling. It will still make sense for people to understand the cross-cultural and cultural differences and what people expect of you, and then the feminist ideas of it, and empowering decision making by women and standing by their choices, and family expectations vis-a-vis yourself and what you want for yourself. Yes, yeah. So yeah, that's one of the things. Yeah.
That's great. You have such a long history with this play, so it made sense that you wanted to actually direct it and use it. And even in the play itself, Ama Ata Aidoo, as one of the best writers, good writers always are critical of their own cultures. They don't simply say we're perfect and everybody else outside made us what we are, right? So even when the African American woman comes into Ato's family, they immediately reject her. They say she's a descendant of slaves. We do not want this in our family. So, it's kind of like from both sides, Ama Ata Aidoo is showing the audience that prejudice can exist on all sides. And you're right, there's something really universal about this particular play. And then I think if you want to talk a little bit about the issue of, you said she was a feminist, she gave women a strong voice, and issues of fertility for women, right? I mean, within the tradition, what it means, compulsorily you have to be a mother. And then, what happens in Dilemma and what happens in Anoa, in both plays, she really brings this up.
Both plays. So she's playing Eulalie in a thought of the idea of that the expectation of the Aton's family that she should have given birth by now, not knowing what was going on. And then she plays Anoa, who's also waiting to give birth and cannot because of Akon being impotent. But the idea in all of this, the blame is squarely put on the woman. Nobody even thinks about the guy or the man, in all of this. It's like, well, if you're not having it, let's wash her stomach. Nobody's talking about let's wash her stomach. Nobody talks about him. Like, our son could never be the reason why, she's not giving birth. And in this time, and it's you find, and she plays it so well in a very patriarchal society, identifying that now once a man is outed, let's say if he was outed as being the one responsible, it is such a big deal that in Anwar he actually has to kill himself.
Yes.
It's like, yes, if everybody is going to know that I am the one who's incapable of, then I can't even live anymore. And that is how you can tell, that is how the culture and it really, really needed procreation and, bringing offspring was so important to them. You were judged, the families were judged by how many children you had. Like, is she pregnant yet? Wait, well, you've been married for 2 weeks. Is she not pregnant? That way, it's just 2 weeks. What are you expecting? The expectations were just there. And if it didn't happen, no one ever thought about the guy. It had always been. And then I'm always trying to tell them, like, constantly, it was your decision at home that we shouldn't have children just yet. You said, you're okay without the children. It had nothing to do with me. And I did come to you to say, let's have children now. And you still said no. But now you cannot, you cannot go to your family and tell them that this is what you said. It's just an interesting thing when it comes to how she does that. But she empowers the women to talk about it, to say, they come out to tell them. Because you realize that once Ato's mother understands where she's coming from, she becomes receptive.
Yes.
She says, wait, so this decision was made by my son. And he knows this. And he's making us treat you like this. Is your dead mother, wherever her ghost may be, is watching over you. And it's very sad that we have treated you like that as women to women because you couldn't have a child. So so she takes her in now and says, listen, come. We didn't know that's what the story was about. And it's very, for me, it's symbolic that once we understand each other's position in stuff, it becomes easier to come. Now we know where it's not like we are fighting. We are now understanding where this is all coming from.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that response, because it also shows not just the woman is blamed, which is usually the case, but when the person is shown up, as you said, when in Anoa, Kofi Ako, it's determined that he's impotent, right? Or sterile or whatever, then he has to kill himself. And he got the guns from trading slaves with the Europeans, because when Anoa kills herself, she drowns, supposedly.
She drowns.
But Kofi kills himself with a gun. So on both sides, whether it's men or women, this issue can be so deeply intimate, but also it's so public, and how people can really blame you for these kind of biological issues that come up. So very, very interesting listening to you about both the plays. So I don't know how much more time we have, Daphne.
Yeah, so we should open up for the Q&A. But before we do that, I want to ask Fiifi, do you have any advice or suggestions for students or young people who are pursuing theater? Because you have had experience in dealing with that, in very difficult situations, and you're thriving. You keep putting on productions, and I really admire you. So any tips for our young students?
I think the biggest one I keep saying is that instead of waiting for the spaces to come to you, instead of the spaces to be available before you can do work, try to create the small spaces that you can with smaller communities and start doing work. Many a time there's a determination. I've seen people who very hurriedly, the first production, whatever they want to go to the National Theatre right away. They don't, they want like a bigger audience, to do stuff and works with all of those things. It takes time to build yourself to the point where you attract the numbers and people who want to come and enjoy theater in those spaces. Do not be in a hurry to go out. Do try out your work. Do test it out with audiences that you can handle, that you can pick feedback from, and all of those things before you jump leaping into doing those little things. In the world in which we are, it is passion that really drives us, and there's a satisfaction that we get from doing what we are doing. And so I tell people, listen, I know, look, the money is good. It's good to get paid for what you do and all of that. And so strive to want to make that, where your source of income is coming from. But if that becomes our very sole aim of doing the work, then we as storytellers and we as the mirror of society, we're defeated, because wherever the money is coming from, we are swayed in that way. Be objective about your storytelling. Be very, very strong about whatever that you want to say, and then keep pushing. Read more plays. Watch other people's work, and then understand what is going on in the world. Be open. Don't be just Ghana. Try to go out there, see what other people are doing, and pick from your opinion, and then do with it. Yes.
Nice. Are you working on anything after? Do you have anything planned after the slaves?
Yes. I think you might know Ifwa Sutherland.
Yes.
Yeah. So if it was 100th anniversary this year.
Oh, I see. Yeah. She passed away a long time back. Yeah.
A lot, yes. So it's so it's 100th anniversary this year, and so the family is doing like a year-long project for him and her plays. And so I've been selected to direct one of her plays in her honor, for 100th. So from this, I'll be doing a play called Edufa. That's my next.
Yeah, that's a complicated play, more than Marriage of Anansiwa. Marriage of Anansiwa is just easier to do.
It's light. Edufa is very deep. Yes.
I would love to come and see Edufa when you do it.
Okay.
When is it?
Yeah. We are yet to pick dates. Our first dates will be in this month. I would know. I'll share it with you, Daphne. You will know exactly when it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Great. We have a question from the audience. So hi, thank you for joining us. I was wondering, what do you think you feel most inspired by that we might see in your work?
I think with every work that I attempt to do, the style is very important for me. To say very, very often when we're dealing with being real, like realism, between realism and naturalism on stage, we tend to mime a lot and then pretend act with other things, with other stuff. I try to not really play it that way. In most of my plays, I go for, if it is possible that they are talking about they were cooking, I would make sure a meal would be prepared on stage whilst you're doing that. Like I want to appeal to your auditory senses, your smell too as well. And so what you hear, you smell. I like the idea that someone in the audience can actually smell the food that is being made on stage. And all of those things. So in most of my plays, I attempt to bring in things that like, wait, did he actually put, like, are they washing on stage? Like, are they bathing? Like, there's water, and everything, and the stage and all of those things. I attempt to make that as real as it can get for people to, to understand that even though we are telling a story, a make-believe or whatever it is, we attempt to get the real parts of it to share with our audiences. Yeah.
Okay, great. Do we have more questions from the audience? You can use the Q&A function to type in your question. So you also work in, you say you also work in Washington, D.C. What's your work? How is that different from working here and working in Accra?
Um, working in DC, I manage a dinner theater. I manage a dinner theater. So the difference is the type of work that we're creating there is more of dance. It's more very burlesque dance performances with a bit of poetry here and there, and then an aerial displays as well whilst people dine. That is what I do basically there. Occasionally, I'll visit theaters where I'll just join in conversations and creation of works and all, but that's not like the main thing that I do. And when I come back here, it's the same thing. Like the story that I'm able to tell there, that the understanding, to give meaning will be very foreign. And when I'm here, I'm tempted to also tell stories that I feel like the locals can actually understand me better and relate to very much. There's always a temptation, and it's always been there. And I'm thinking about exporting theater, exporting, Ghanaian theater, African theater to the Americas somewhere that regardless of the content, regardless of, where it's coming from, it is well received and understood. And people are like, oh, so, this work is coming from Ghana, it's purely Ghanaian. It's being set in America, it's being brought to the Warner Theater, it's being brought to the Kennedy Center, all of those little spaces that people will go and enjoy things that are purely Ghanaian theater that has been brought over to be entertained and enjoyed. Yeah.
Okay, we have a question from Diana, and she asked about one impactful moment from this play that you enjoy every time. I assume it's from Dilemma because you play multiple times. So can you pick one impactful moment to talk about?
I think it will be it will be because I have been traveling back and forth America and Ghana for a while. So every like I see it, like literally, like when you travel and then you come back amongst your peers and everything, you become so you're the one who has gone to America and back. And so many a time, even when you share your opinion on something, it becomes like, oh, because you've been to America, you think this is how it's supposed to be done, And then you yourself, you're also very tempted to answer questions like, well, in America, then you catch yourself, wait, hold up. You're about to sell yourself in a way that you don't want to. So it's just that the influence of back and forth America and Ghana is something that makes like I can actually really see feel what Atom is going through. Like this is the guy who like when he was in a very, very closed society where everybody's keep out watching over you, everyone can correct you, everybody can, whatever. And then we go to a free society where, wait, you can drink, a woman can smoke. I never knew women can smoke. So you experience all of these things. So when you come back and a woman is trying to say, hey, wait, no, in America, women can... No, don't say that. You're about to get yourself into trouble. So it's just going back and forth really like made that character slightly impactful for me that I ended to be that person sometimes to play it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Kato and I both can share this kind of experience, right? When going back home or going to a different country, there's always like a little bit of period. Say, oh, okay, where am I? Okay, am I
Yes.
behaving in a very rude way, or do I have to speak a different way? Even though we can be speaking English, but it will be different kinds of English in different countries, right? And different ways of speaking. Yeah.
Yeah, and in Africa, they call the people who come back the Bintu. You've been to New York or you've
Been to, yes,
to
yes,
US or
yes.
somewhere else. And then when
Yeah.
you come back, but Ama Ata Aidoo is also very critical of people who study abroad and they think they've become so big, but that the traditional community has a kind of wisdom that you don't get from your education. And she shows that even in her short stories. For the students in the audience, it's worth reading her short stories. They are called No Sweetness Here. Each story is amazing about life in Ghana and, many of the struggles of modernization and how she critiques the educated class. She also critiques the Ghanaian, what they call them, the big men, who are always exploiting young women. And so she has a really beautiful way of dealing with her society.
Mhm.
But I shouldn't ask all the questions.
Well, there's another question about how you bridge the barriers you face, right? When you try to bridge your work between Ghana and America, what kind of barriers you have, and how do you try to bridge that, the two places, two cultures?
I think it always also still becomes about the type of story that I am telling. The idea it's Ghanaians, in Ghana, I tell a story would rather see me Ghanaian, would understand me Ghanaian than, any other place that you're coming from. But I've also come to understand that all the things that I pick up from the States or whatever in America, when it comes to theater and how things are processed and everything there, they have a way that influences the way I direct. They have a way of influencing the way that I stage things and how I see them. These barriers, I don't want to call them barriers per se. These challenges are things that actually, for me as a director, propels me to figure out a way. And in this way, it's like, let's just oppose the two things, together, and let's see where we can strike a difference, where we can strike a line to say that, okay, fine. So this influence is making you behave this way, that influence is making you behave this way. But in the voices of the author, in the voices of the character that you are playing or you're representing, where stands the character in all of that? Because I can bring my voice to, I can bring whatever it is, and you can bring your opinion about where you are to it. But the play is set, or the characters are placed in a setting. And in that setting, what is required of them? In that setting, what would they do? Not what would I do, not what would you do? We are telling a story of something. So in that setting, what becomes of it? And I think also because of previous works and things that I have done in the past and the recognition that comes with it, it doesn't become very difficult for people to actually know that I actually do know what we're talking about, what we're dealing with. And then eventually at the end of the day, you have people walk up to you and go like, well, I think, yeah, this made sense. This actually makes sense. And then that actually makes sense. But besides that, it's been a very, very good time working with them. And I actually like the idea that somebody will actually have the challenge or the misunderstanding of why things are the way they are for you because of your experiences. But at every given time, we are able to find that common place to be at to make the work happen.
Yeah, we have a question about so right now you're a very successful director, and then you're very productive. And so at what point in your life you felt, yes, I made it? This is the question.
Yes, I made it. Yes, I made it. Yes, I made it. Babe. Oh boy, come to me. I don't know. I don't know what point. Like I think it's when the newspapers and critics started writing about my work without having to be called into it or anything, I didn't even know they were around. I didn't know what was going on. And when they started writing about my works, and when I started getting calls from people that would say, or people who would come and watch, say, wait, are you the one directing it? Yes, okay, fine, I'm coming. Like when I started getting that thing from people that I really looked up to, like professors that taught me in school and all of those things, when they started saying, if you are the one leading this, I'm coming over. I felt like, okay, I think yeah, I think I made it, but it's still a learning process for me. It's a learning process for me. There's a whole lot more that we're learning, and then we're trying to do, and every day I'm learning. Every day I'm learning, and so I might have made it, some while back, or something has brought the idea of I've made it, but I'm still struggling that I keep making it and making it. I think sustainability is more important to me than the one time that I felt like I made it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for artists, performing artists especially, it's never good to feel very comfortable, right?
Yeah.
It's always like, okay, well, I might screw up. I have to be careful. I have to, I don't know. I'm not quite sure. I think that kind of nervousness is really, really important. If you feel so comfortable, well, yeah, I've made it. I can do whatever. People will love me, and you are probably not gonna be a good artist anymore. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions from the audience?
Just wanted to ask from the audience if anybody is trying to be a director and, if they've had any experience in that, or they could ask Fiifi Coleman about that, if there are any students.
And you often star in your own production. So you both direct and act.
That's the toughest thing that you could ever do as a director.
I was gonna say I'm not gonna do that myself, but you do that, yeah.
I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. It's a thing. I don't like it one bit. And it said, why? I said, I only do this. I'm only in the production because before I was known as a director, I was known as an actor. And I have a very huge following of fans who see me as an actor. The actor, they watch their movies and they like his movies, and and all of that. I think currently over 100,000 following and all of those things. So sometimes I put myself in and pick up maybe, I think this one that I picked a bigger role like as acting, but in all other plays, I take a very small role in there so they could say in the play there is going to be Fiifi Coleman as well. So that all the fans that I have will now get to also come and see the work, and that is the only reason that I keep doing that. It's not a very good place to be. So it's just very difficult. It's hard to stay in character when you are here, then you want to fix something that you see whilst you are here. And so your mind is going like, I'm checking everybody at the same time, trying to be who I'm supposed to be. And then it's just not a very good place to be. I would advise you not to do that if you want to become a director. But I'm slowly weaning myself off of that. Like that, I don't want to be doing that yet.
So when you're in the US, do you see theaters as well? Do you go to plays?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes,
What do you think? What do you think we should? What any criticism?
No, it's just for me. For me, in as much as I go back and forth a lot, and I've stayed there for 12 years and over, and all of that, it's always new for me. Every theater that I go to watch in the US is new for me. It's like the style, the storytelling, and because there is also the theaters, local or not, are very well equipped, so they're able to make these things happen that I've never seen them happen here with what we have. I'm able to see how that like especially technical stuff that I'm able to achieve. So I go in there, I love the storytelling and the vision and everything, but I'm more the person who's like looking at how did they make that, create that? Okay, that light from where is it coming from? What is it? And how does it affect whatever it is that we are doing on the stage? And I think that what I admire most, and I always I figure a way to go back to them, is the collaboration, the different units, and how that they come together, to tell that story, with the lighting base and the statement, everybody just behind the bench trying to map out what needs to happen and all of those things. It's always a beauty for me to watch. So I go in there, open-minded. I'm just going to go, watch and listen to the story. But at the same time, as the director in me is looking at, okay, this is coming from, okay, that's happening here, some perspectives and all of those little things. And it just every one of them that I've seen.
Right, because
Classic.
yeah, when I know about you only have one day or half a day to be in the theater, that is what you sacrifice. You cannot work on very, complicated lighting cues, right? And all those, you cannot do that, or sound cues and all that, right? Because you have to choose something simpler, so you will make sure that it will work, right?
Yep.
Yeah, because you don't have time to go again and things like that. And costume change and all that as well. Yeah.
All of that,
Yeah.
You can push them where you tell the light, listen, just let there be light on stage. Okay, that's all. Just don't let the light go off. Because at this point, you're not going to start playing with stuff. Just make sure you don't go off. Let's just go.
Yeah, and then all the actors are the basic, the essential part, right? So as long as the actors are there, there's some light, then you have theater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's tell the story.
Right. Let's tell the story. Wow, it has been such a great pleasure to talk to you today, and across 8,000 miles. And thank you so much for joining us. And I'm sure my community here learned a lot. I know people from Ghana also joined us. So yeah, thank you very much, Fiifi, and thank you, K2, and thank you, everyone. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.
And for you, good evening.
Good
Thank you.
evening.
Bye.